South and North Korea finally agreed to reopen the Gaeseong Industrial Complex. South and North Korean authorities met in the 7th working level meeting on August 14th and came to a 5-point agreement. Unification Ministry correspondent Hwang Sung-hee was selected into the press pool to cover the story about the 7th round of talks at the Gaeseong Industrial Complex. And reporter Hwang Ji-hye connected live during newscasts for the latest on the ongoing meeting. Last week, the Park Geun-hye administration announced its first tax reform, which stirred up a lot of opposition. The gist of the plan was to raise taxes on people with incomes of more than $30,000 a year. With mounting criticism over the plan amid concern that it would increase the burden on the middle class, the government quickly came up with a revised tax reform measure. National Assembly correspondent Yeon-ji reported on the fierce debate that was heating up on both sides of the political aisle over the issue of tax reform.
Yeon-ji, Arirang News.
Connie Lee went to a very special venue ahead of Korea's Liberation Day. Her story is about stone structures that were installed during the period of Japanese occupation in Korea. The Japanese had driven numerous steel posts around the Korean peninsula during colonial rule in attempts to disrupt Korea's national spirit. Posts of carved rocks not made of steel were recently discovered for the first time, and our Connie Lee reported on the impact of this discovery.
Connie Lee, Arirang News.
NHN's Naver portal site dominates the search engine market in Korea with a market share of 78.4% as of June this year. The perception is that Naver is monopolizing the market and also threatening the survival of small businesses.
Ever since President Park Geun-hye came into office, she's been speaking of this thing called shared economy. So the new government has been putting a lot of efforts into curbing the power of these conglomerates or so-called 재벌. And what's interesting here is that NHN, an internet company, is coming under fire for its over-expanding power, and it's being treated as an equal to these conglomerates. And just next month, the ruling Saenuri Party is going to propose a bill that's in regards to regulating Naver or NHN. So I thought it was a really good time to, really cover the story and present it in an interesting way.
Yoo Li-an has chosen to report on a topic that is stirring up criticism and showing up in the headlines. And as the government has announced that it is stepping in to deal with this matter, it's likely to make more headlines in the weeks to come. But booking an interview with experts seems to be a problem.
거기 KTV 연구원 투자하는 거 맞나요? 알겠습니다. 네, 최찬석 연구원님 연결 부탁드릴게요. 최찬석 연구원님이요. 네, 이창영 연구원님인데요. 네, 안녕하세요. 아리랑 TV 유리한 기자라고 하는데요. 저 이번에 네이버 독과점 기획기사를 준비하고 있는데 인터뷰 가능하신지 해서 연락을 드렸습니다. 그럼 그런 거 잘 하신 분 혹시 아세요? 연구원님 중에서? 예, 알겠습니다.
Leon gets turned down by a string of experts who say they're either on vacation or simply not that familiar with the topic. So she decided to send out emails with the hopes of snagging an interview. And finally, one reply turns Leon's plan in the right direction.
So one of the professors actually called me back instead of emailing me back, saying that he's quite interested in doing this interview. And what I really liked was that he was really willing to do it in English, actually. And from just talking to him on the phone, I could tell he was really enthusiastic about this topic. And he actually told me he recently did an English interview on an English radio station here. And he wanted me to listen to it to see, what kind of things that he could really talk about regarding to this Naver's monopoly. So he sent me the link and he sent me the script as well. And I took some time to listen to it, and it was actually 10 minutes long. And for all of that 10 minutes long, I was fully engaged in what he had to say about this topic. And of course, I actually wanted to be on the studio and introduce the topic myself, as I've been researching about it for such a long time now. But I realized what's best for news is always better. So I asked him to come on the studio, and he willingly said yes. So
Leon thought the interview deserved more attention than the 20 to 30-second coverage that would appear in a package. So although it would have been a good opportunity for Leon to appear live on News in Depth to introduce the issue, she makes a drastic decision to have the expert appear on the news instead of her.
401호 그냥 방 한 칸에 있나 봐요. 회사가 그냥 방 하나 401호.
So Leon decides to look into more cases of companies damaged by the monopoly of large portal sites.
혹시 이 서비스가 뭔지 좀
네네.
띄어서 찍어갈 수 있을까요?
This company is one of those named by the Naver Countermeasure Committee on August 7th as being damaged.
그 웹사이트가 이런 형태로 있다라고 치면 저희가 브라우저 애플리케이션인데 저희 메모디스라는 거를 설치를 하게 되면 사이트가 이렇게 되는 거죠. 투명한 레이어가 올라가 있다고. 그래서 이 페이지 위에 포스트잇처럼 붙일 수 있는 이런 기술인 거예요. 그래서 이 위에 이런 것처럼 올려서 정보를 쓰게 되는 이거에 대한 저희가 국제 특허를 갖고 있거든요. 여기 있는 것처럼 국내, 미국, 일본, 러시아 이렇게 국제 특허를 가지고 있는 거고요. 필요한 부분이 있으면 이렇게 들어간 다음에
With this program, the user can make an instant memo of information with words, photos, and video.
필요한 부분들을 이제 적게 됩니다. 이 부분에서
The program is designed to make automatic memos of various internet windows that have been opened. This venture company makes profits from the advertisements of companies that are put on the memo.
네이버 웹사이트 자체도 메모 기능이 있잖아요.
그거는 그거랑 좀 차이점을 말씀을 드리면 네이버의 사이트에 있는 메모 기능은 네이버 사이트에서만 가능합니다.
그러니까 이거는 다음이든 아무튼
얘는 그러니까 이것이 혁신적인 기술인 거고요. 정보를 관리하고 주고받는
He continues giving examples of complaints about large portal sites abusing their status and acting as threats to small traders.
참고예요, 참고. 중요한 건 여기다 기록을 남기고 하는 그런 부분들인 거고요. 문제는 뭐냐면 네이버에서는 이 서비스 자체를 못 쓰게 한 거예요. 뭐
이유를 이 정보를 가리는 거 말고도 그
광고나 뭐 그런 형태 때문에 그런 거죠. 예. 그렇기 때문에 네이버에서
This small venture company claims to have suffered monthly losses of up to $17,000 US. This is causing Leon to step back and think.
저희한테 그런 건 하나도 없었거든요. 저희한테
Unfortunately, like I mentioned this on my news as well. called them a lot of times, the NHN company, for them to go on an interview with me, even for just provide me with at least a comment, but they declined, saying that it's too much of a sensitive topic at this point. But of course, those companies that are being affected by this issue are very, very willing to talk about this, because the more media coverage they get, the more they think they have a say through this media. So, of course, when I went to meet with one of the companies that they say were highly affected by NHN, they had so much to talk about, and I did spend quite a lot of time listening to their story, but I put in a lot of attention and effort to keeping the balance.
기자 보고 말씀해 주시면 되고요.
네.
질문을 해주시면
네. 아까 말씀하신 것처럼 편하게 하시면 되고요. 그냥 구체적으로 지금은 일단 이 사업이 네이버 때문에 어떤 피해를 받는지 관해서 말씀해 주세요.
네, 저희 서비스 쓰는 광고주, 물론 저희가 이제 대기업들인데 저희 소프트웨어를 쓰면 네이버에 광고를 못 낸다고 메일을 보냈어요. 그래서 저희는 저희 서비스가 그런 애드웨어도 아니고 정상적인 서비스입니다. 내용 증명을 반대로 저희가 보냈어요. 근데 네이버한테 그 메일을 받은 그 광고주들은 다 스탑을 했어요. 그래서 저희 고객의 80%가 다 떨어져 나간 거예요. 최근에 사회 분위기나 네이버에 대해서 이런 저런 비판의 소리가 높아지니까 네이버에서는 저희 서비스에 대해서 얘기를 안 해요. 저는 사실 그게 더 서글퍼요. 그때도 저희는 2년 전이나 3년 전이나 동일한 서비스를 하고 있는데 그때는 애드웨어고 지금은 애드웨어가 아닙니까? 왜? 보는 사람들이 많으니까. 저는 그것이 실제로 네이버가 가지고 있는 힘을 과도하게 사용한 거라고 봐요.
최근에 진짜 이 네이버 법제화, 규제해야 된다.
네네.
이 이슈가 불거지고 나서 이제 아예 사용할 수 있도록 네이버에도 이제 허용을 한 거네요.
허용했다라기보다는 해를 끼치거나 그런 영향도 이제 안 되는 거고.
알겠습니다. 그것까지만 말씀해 주시면 될 것 같아요. 네.
그러니까 그런 건 정성적인 게 있죠. 소비자들이 여기 프로그램은 악성 코드다, 악성 불법 광고다라고 이미 인지를 해버렸어요.
아, 그래요?
네, 이미 이것 깔면은 이거
어떻게 피해는
안 좋은 프로그램이라고 이미.
After the interview, the emergency light in the vehicle transporting the crew suddenly switches on, and the driver pulls to the side of the road.
That could limit the company from competing globally. Yoo Li-an, Arirang News. NHN declined. 안 돼요?
네이버가 전혀 안 걸리죠.
너무 높죠?
그리고 외장하는 친구들은 앞으로 돌아서 하나 만들어서 저쪽 어디 가서 해도 너무
On the way to the shoot, the stand-up in front of the Naver headquarters, there is a change of plan and the team stops at a toll gate. It has been decided that the Naver logo should be in the background of the stand-up.
Only reiterating what CEO Kim Sang-hee said earlier this week, Kim vowed to continue to work closely with related government officials. I really wanted to do my stand-up in front of NHN because the content of what I was saying was directly related to the company. What I had said was the company, despite repeated requests for an interview, declined. And I wanted to say that in front of the company so that the viewers can make the connection that, oh, this reporter really tried and she couldn't get an interview, which is why she's standing in front of the company, not inside, speaking of the current situation and things like that. So, to limit the company from competing globally. Yoo Li-an, Arirang News.
에이, 망했는데?
왜요?
진짜 너무 밝고 피부가 좀 어두운 편이라 잘 안 나와. 해 나올 때까지 기다려야 되겠는데?
진짜요? Hope that the government does not rush to create regulations.
Leon gets ready to do a stand-up at 2 in the afternoon on a blistering hot asphalt road amid a summer heat wave.
Only reiterating what CEO Kim Sang-hee said earlier this week.
Everyone waits for the sky to clear up since the clouds are blocking the sunlight.
Rush to create regulations.
부셔도 좀 참아야 돼. 맞춰봐. 안 맞았어. 오케이.
Finally, the camera director gives the cue sign.
NHN declined repeated requests for an interview, only reiterating what CEO Kim Sang-hun said earlier this week. Kim vowed to continue to work closely with related government officials, but also expressed hope that the government does not rush to create regulations that could limit the company from competing globally. Yoo Li-an, Arirang News.
The shooting under the scorching sun ends.
I think what I want to say is, we're living in a world where technology is constantly reshaping our lives, and it's actually becoming integrated into our lives more than ever. And, in a world where we are constantly online be it through our mobile phones or for our PCs. And so I felt like this story would be a good chance for them to give them a chance to think about before they log on to their usual websites every day, to think about what it means for these companies to have such a dominance in this industry. And also this issue was interesting to me that President Park Geun-hye, her drive to, really curb the powers of these conglomerates is not just focus on the regular chaebols or conglomerates that we're used to, but it's actually expanding into an internet company. And I think that says a lot that, like I said before, with technology becoming such a huge part of our lives, and for the government even to go forward and trying to put a regulation on an internet company, I think that in itself speaks of why this story could be of some importance to our viewers.
Lee-an hurries to request a computer graphic right after she returns to the office after the shoot. It's the issue receiving massive media attention lately: monopoly regulations of large portal sites. During this coverage, Lee-an drew on all her resources to enhance the story and make a decision to reduce her portion and maximize the expert's interview in order to highlight the issue.
Good morning and welcome to Arirang News' special coverage of Korea's 68th Liberation Day here in Seoul.
Established its government and swore in its first president, Lee Jae-man. President Park to hat for Japan in her speech.
Given what has been going on with Japan, I think she will have a significant message. I think what happened yesterday is somewhat of a triumph for the...
Do you expect President Park to hat for Japan? The president has walked into the hall and everyone... Well, it looks like the ceremony is about to begin. Let's tune in.
국제에 대하여 경례.
So when we look back on the accomplishments the Korean people have not rested, the sacrifices and
President Park begins her speech celebrating 68 years of Korea's liberation from Japan.
This is a historic day as we celebrate the 68th anniversary of liberation and the place in the world.
About 100 years ago, we lost our country and our history was almost erased forever. However, the Korean government will actively preserve and manage historic relics and archives to update has faced numerous challenges and crises.
마지막입니다.
Together with the Korean people, I hope to continue on this great journey to create happiness for the Republic of Korea and to contribute to the peace and happiness.
자, 이제 마이크 올려주세요. 자, 마이크 올라왔습니다.
That was President Park speaking, addressing the nation on the 60th anniversary of Korea's Liberation Day.
And she touched on three major points there during her speech: North Korea, Japan, and the domestic issues facing the nation and her policies to deal with those issues. Kind of common sense a message, but in a way, a very important message.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we do look forward to having you on our newscast in the near future.
Thank you.
That was our special coverage of celebrations marking Korea's 68th Liberation Day.
Me and Yusun will be back at New Korea time.
투 스탑 비주얼. 주조 준비해 주시고요. 네, 수고하셨습니다. 네, 수고하셨습니다.
Continued disputes over historical. I'm just going to take this away because it'll confuse me. PD님, so I just want to make sure I don't mess this up. So after this first intro,
Don't
just,
mention his name.
yeah, cut, and then I can turn to him at that point and say to help us navigate through the challenges we are joined this week by Yoo. Thank you for being on the show. Scott Thompson, pleasure to meet you. Thank you so much for being on the show. Great. Busy time for you.
Probably you should stop.
Right. Next week, I guess. Next week will be very busy. Yeah, I mean, I think we cover everything, right? Tensions, Yasukuni Shrine, Dokdo, all of that stuff. Tensions between South Korea and Japan are starting to simmer again amid continued disputes over territorial and historical issues. We are joined this week by Yeon-ji, Vice President of the Sejong Institute. Thank you very much for being on the show.
Thank you for Prime Minister Abe, and this show his concerns. So, Yasukuni Shrine is kind of a central place for for those conservative politicians of Japan. They think it is kind of a national cemetery, and in a sense, Yasukuni Shrine is, as I just mentioned, is a symbol of
what the rising sun flag is and what it represents.
There are certain, kind of apprehension about Japanese doing again that militarism and that kind of things, but more criticism, I think, as a kind of radical kind of evidence. So in a sense.
There's certainly complicated issues. We do appreciate you coming on the show and providing your insights. Thank you very much for being on the show. Appreciate it. That was great. A lot to talk about, right? We covered a lot of ground.